Hi, Charles Lindsay from The Professionals. I'm sitting down today with Clare Stanley. Clare is a partner at Thomas Stewart Serrani Letts, a law firm here in Wellington, and we are going to be talking about conveyancing. Thanks, Clare. Thank you for coming.
Hi, Charles. Good morning.
I've got a couple of questions for you. First off, do you think if you're a first home buyer, it is important to come and see you first before going to a real estate agent and drafting up an offer?
Well, it's very important to talk to a lawyer or a legal executive at an early stage in the process. Most people will have an idea about a house they're interested in before they reach out to a law firm, but very important to speak to somebody before you actually put pen to paper and sign the contract. Most people that we deal with, it's over phone and email, so there's no need to actually make a physical appointment. That's often difficult to fit in our busy lives, but quick phone call, we can often be of help straight away.
What, in your years of practice, what are the main clauses that you'd like to see in a contract?
So buying a house is, I guess, the most expensive thing you're ever going to buy. So it's really important to make sure that you protect yourself and you know what you're getting into, and you don't end up signing up for something that you're going to be stuck with that's detrimental to you. So you wouldn't buy a used car without getting a mechanic to check it out. So we're really big on people getting their own builder's reports to make sure that there's nothing fundamentally wrong with the house design. It's not leaking, it's not going to fall down on one side.
Can I just butt in there? Quite often, as agents, we will provide a building report. Is that sufficient, or do you think a purchaser should then still go out and get their own?
Builders' reports are created by the building inspector for the person that pays for the report. Usually that's the house owner. So while it can be a useful place to start, our legal advice is that you can't rely on a vendor's builder's report. If the inspector has missed something fundamental, and it does happen every now and again, you've got no comeback against that building inspector. So we do encourage people to get their own builder's report. They can be expensive, it can delay your offer, or it might mean you have to put a condition in, but it's the most important thing in my view.
That's also with LIM reports. What are the most important things that a purchaser should be looking at in a LIM report?
So LIM reports are provided by the local council, and they can tell you things about the land and the house, subdivision history, what else is going on around the area, and also things like natural hazards. And with climate change and the effects of that, there's a lot more focus coming in on that these days. So it's important, if there is a LIM report available, to have your lawyer help you review it. They're quite technical. They also contain information about where the building work that's being done, including building the house in the first place, has a code compliance certificate sign-off. So that's very important, because if you buy a house without one of those and it needs one, you could be in quite a bit of trouble if you try and sell it in the future.
With the change in the the Act, I think it was 1991, where you started had to get you had started getting permits for your property. Prior to that, you didn't. That often throws up a red flag. You got any thoughts on that?
So yeah, depending on when the house is built, there were different rules for councils. There were building permits prior to 1991, but they didn't have to have any official sign-off from the council at the end. The period between 1992 and about 2006 is a bit of a quagmire. That's what we call the leaky building era. And there are some situations that we come across on a regular basis where work has been done or a house has been built during that period, and it was consented, but it wasn't signed off by the council at the end. So it's important to make sure that you at least know about that, make sure that your bank's happy with the situation, and see whether anything can be done about it. Sometimes it can, sometimes it can't.
That brings me to another point, insurance clauses on contracts. We're seeing more and more now people finding it difficult to get insurance. And quite often on a contract, it won't be subject to an insurance for a purchaser to be able to obtain insurance. Is that a must in your opinion?
Absolutely. So if you want to borrow money from a bank to buy a house or an apartment, and most of us have to, unless we've won Lotto the week before, you need to make sure that you can insure the property, because the bank won't give you the money if you can't provide an insurance certificate prior to your day that you hand over the money and get the keys. With climate change, again, some insurance companies are backing away from certain areas of Wellington, especially coastal areas. So it's important to make sure that you have insurance lined up in advance. You can get some information through the agent about what the vendor's insurance is, but you need to actually make sure that you've arranged to take over a policy or get your own new policy on the property before you make an unconditional offer. And if you are making an offer with conditions like a builder's report or finance, it's good to include an insurance clause as well, just in case. We don't see it very often, but I think it's going to become more frequent that insurance is not as easy to get as you think it might be.
Yeah. So just tracking back, important things: building report, insurance clause,
Yep.
LIM report.
Yes.
Anything else that you would advise?
Well, most people need to have finance approval from their bank. Your mortgage broker might have organised that for you already. If you're a first home buyer, then you are probably wanting to take your KiwiSaver out. A good thing to bear in mind is that it can take up to 15 working days to get your KiwiSaver money out from the day that you send your application in. And again, this is something that your lawyer will help you with, but it's good to have a chat with your lawyer at the start and just say, how much time do I need to allow between making this offer and the day that I want to settle on the house and move in, so that you make sure you've got enough time to get your KiwiSaver out.
For first home buyers, can you get your money out of the KiwiSaver to pay for the deposit?
Yes, you can. Yeah. There'll be a bit of a delay, so it's always good to discuss that with the real estate agent. You won't be able to get the money out straight away once your contract is unconditional and you're all locked in. So it's important to just make sure that's properly noted in the agreement that there'll be a bit of a delay with paying the deposit. Sometimes you might have a little bit of cash yourself to put in, but if the rest is coming from KiwiSaver, then that needs to be factored into the wording of the contract.
Actually, I just missed a good point. Well, that should be on the contract. Title search. Now, quite often we'll get contracts coming through our desk and there's a myriad of stuff on the title. What are the most important things that you should be looking at?
Every property is different. So that's definitely a job for the lawyers. Sometimes it can take us 5 minutes to check a title if it's relatively straightforward. The sorts of things we're looking for is we'll often compare it to an aerial photo to make sure you've got legal access to get to the house, or if there's a driveway on the property, to make sure that's entirely on your property, or you've got a right-of-way easement to enable you to legally access your house. Some titles can be really complicated and we might need to put a special condition in saying that the lawyer has to approve the title within a certain number of days. Apartments can be interesting. There's a lot of information to go through with apartments, so a bit of extra time is always needed for that. Just
going back to the aerial photograph that you're talking about, quite often in Wellington, particularly with their old titles, you'll see a house that is actually protruding into the next door neighbour's boundary. In that scenario, what can you do about that?
So the only surefire way to know whether the house that you want to buy is situated within the legal boundary is to have a surveyor check that out for you. The aerial photos that Land Information New Zealand have and that the local councils have access to are reasonably accurate, but not 100%. If there's a really obvious overlap, then that is a major problem, and there may need to be some survey and legal work to fix that up, which is a very slow process. It might take as long as 6 months, so that's always something to check out at a good early stage.
And Claire, what are the general costs of a conveyancing solicitor?
So it depends on what sort of property you want to buy and how much hand-holding you need, I guess. If it's your first time buying a house, you might be having several goes before you're successful in securing a property. You're going to need help with the LIM report. Perhaps the wording of your conditions is a good thing to have your lawyer check out. And if you are looking at buying an apartment, there can be quite a lot of material to review to make sure that you know exactly what you're getting into. So there are many varying factors. A rough ballpark figure is to budget around $2,500. It might be more if you need to take out your KiwiSaver. fortunately, banks hand out cash these days as a contribution to your costs, so that can assist with your legal fees and also things like getting your own builder's report.
And if you were selling?
Again, it depends on the property. It's generally cheaper to sell, but if there are issues with the property that need to be dealt with, then yeah, that might affect your costs.
Yeah.
But definitely cheaper to sell usually.
Well, Claire, thank you for your time. There were some interesting points in there, and I hope people pick up on them. Any conveyancing questions, please feel free to give Claire a call at Thomas Stewart Serrani and Letts. And if you've got any further questions about real estate, give me a bell or email me, charles@redcoats.co.nz. Have a good day. Thanks, Claire.
Thanks, Giles.